So Vietnam is going all in on this huge digital transformation, but there is one massive hurdle standing in its way, a really critical shortage of tech talent. In this explainer, we're going to dive into the country's incredibly comprehensive and aggressive strategy to build a future-ready workforce, basically from the ground up. Okay, let's just start with the sheer scale of the problem. By 2025, which is right around the corner, Vietnam is projected to be short almost 200,000 skilled IT workers. That's a huge number, and it's a very real threat that could stall their entire digital economy. But as you're about to see, that number, it only tells half the story. You see, the real challenge is something called the dual imperative. It's basically a crisis on two fronts. On one hand, you have the quantitative gap. That's the number we just talked about. You just don't have enough bodies to fill the jobs. But on the other hand, and this is maybe even more important, there's a qualitative gap. This means there's a widespread lack of these crucial power skills, things like complex problem solving and communication, even among graduates who are technically qualified. Okay, let's get into our first section, Vietnam's high-tech hurdle. We're talking about the critical challenge that's threatening the nation's entire digital dream. And this worker shortage, well, it's not spread out evenly. It's really concentrated in the most strategic, future-proof industries. I mean, look at these numbers. Vietnam wants to train up to 100,000 workers just for semiconductors. The need for cybersecurity experts is a staggering 500,000. And with a national strategy pretty much built on AI, the demand for data scientists is just exploding. You know, this quote from the National Statistics Office really gets to the heart of that qualitative problem. The quality of the labor supply does not yet meet the needs of a modern economy. So it's not just about, can you code? It's about, can you think critically? Can you adapt? Can you collaborate? So how on earth is Vietnam tackling this massive challenge? Which brings us to Section 2, a three-pronged attack. We're going to start with how the academic world is responding. Think of Vietnam's university system as this really smart, multi-tiered talent pipeline. You've got your public powerhouses like Vietnam National University and HUST, and they are just producing high-caliber engineers at a massive scale. Then you've got these agile private leaders like Dui Thanh University that can pivot really quickly to meet what the market needs. And at the very top, you have international universities like RMIT Vietnam, which focus on global standards and those all-important soft skills. And this tiered system, it's perfectly reflected in how much it all costs. A standard degree at a top public university might run you about $1,300 a year, but an advanced English-taught AI degree at that very same university, that costs double. Now, jump to an international university like RMIT, and tuition skyrockets to over $14,000. This whole structure allows the system to produce different types of talent for different industry needs. And the universities are tackling that power skills gap with totally different strategies. On one side, you have Ho Chi Minh City University of Technology, or HCMUT. They're taking a formal approach, building mandatory 4-credit courses like soft skills right into the engineering curriculum. Then you've got RMIT, which uses co-curricular support. They offer optional personal edge workshops on things like resume writing and networking to make their graduates more employable. All right, on to Section 3, the ecosystem at work. Because look, academia is only one piece of the puzzle, right? The real power comes from combining policy and private industry. And this is where things get really interesting. Vietnam is leveraging global tech giants to train its population at a massive scale. The partnership with Google, called Build for the AI Future, offers 40,000 scholarships for professional certificates. At the same time, the AI for All program with Intel provides a free 4-hour course to make basic AI knowledge accessible to literally the entire nation. This really highlights the government's role. It isn't just sitting on the sidelines watching this happen. It's acting as a strategic orchestrator, that's the phrase from the report, and it's architecting this entire national strategy, pulling all the pieces together into one cohesive plan. But let's be real, with global competition this fierce, how do you truly win the war for talent? Well, you create incentives that are just too good to refuse. So the government's approach is this simple but really powerful two-track strategy. First, you attract the companies with major incentives. Then you attract the world-class people they need to hire. So first, you attract the companies. For qualifying high-tech firms, the corporate income tax rate gets slashed in half, from the standard 20% down to just 10%. And that's often paired with some pretty generous tax holidays, like 4 years with zero tax, followed by 9 years at a 50% reduction. Okay, so the companies are in. Now you've got to attract the people with some pretty unprecedented benefits. We're talking about a 5-year personal income tax exemption. That is a massive financial windfall for anybody. On top of that, professionals get access to state-funded training, and foreign experts can get 5-year residency cards for themselves and their families. All right, our final section, the strategic takeaway. So we've looked at all the pieces. What does this whole thing mean? What we're seeing here is a fully coordinated talent ecosystem. The universities build the foundation, producing the sheer volume of engineers needed. Then the private sector comes in to add the polish, bridging that gap with practical training and those critical power skills. And the entire system operates under a government framework of strategic policy, partnerships, and really powerful incentives. It all works together. For any company looking at Vietnam, this creates a really clear playbook. You can develop a tiered talent strategy, recruiting from different universities for different kinds of roles. You can and should structure your investments to maximize those incredible tax incentives. And you can institutionalize learning by partnering with trainers to build the skills you need and, just as importantly, to retain your best people. Ultimately, when you step back, you see a comprehensive, multi-layered, and frankly, very aggressive strategy that aligns education, industry, and national policy toward a single ambitious goal. And that leaves us with a final, fascinating question. Is this the new playbook for building a tech nation?